And good morning, my beautiful America. This is Common Sense America. I am Eden Hill, and today is our final day here in Chester County, Pennsylvania. For all of those who have been supporting the show this whole week, our family, our friends, we are so thankful, each and every one of you. Your comments, your text messages, all of your fun messages in regards to my Mamma Mia's in the Kitchen segment. We are doing one more this second half of the show at 9:35 roughly. We will be doing apple pie baking. So thank you, Wanda, Vicky, Debbie Desmond, all of you out there, Sasha Kurz, thank you all for making this time here in Chester County so special. And thank you to my husband, my hubster, who is so supportive of this show, this podcast. Thank you so much for just supporting me in my travels and being there through the ideas, the strategy, and just your insight. I'm so grateful for you. And also, I just wanted to send out a couple recognitions and thank yous to the Buchanan family, their dairy farm. It is known as the Century Farm in southeastern Chester County, Pennsylvania. Thank you for your tour. I will be posting beautiful pictures of the red barns, the white barns, the soybean fields, all of it. I will be posting on my social media accounts. If you have not yet, go to my YouTube channel at Common Sense America. Go to LinkedIn at Common Sense America. Go to Instagram and also Facebook. And I do a little bit of Twitter for Common Sense America. I would love to hear your comments, your thoughts. We are so grateful for all of your support. This week, I have been noticing the increase in numbers of those who are watching this show. And it is amazing to me to see all of the amazing people that have come alongside of us as we've been doing these harvest specials. So thank you. Thank you so much for just your love for the show, your words of encouragement. We are grateful. I love coming to you each and every morning, weekdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, to talk politics, all things on the table, to talk with the candidates, all things on the table, to talk with our veterans and our military families, all things on the table, and to talk about our family, God, country, and family. This show is about God, country, family. As you can see behind me, yes, I did used to work for Sarah Palin. I also used to work for President Trump, and also I have some political paraphernalia right behind me. And I love talking about our country. I love talking about our freedom. And this week, another reason why I came up to Chester County was to take my dad to the Fuge, which is in Bucks County, Warminster, I believe, Westminster. And 990 AM Salem Radio did a huge event. Yesterday, Mr. was talking about it on his show. If you don't tune into 990 AM, even if you don't live in Philadelphia, please check it out. Here's why. I have Chris DeGaulle, who's been in Philly for over a decade, and who's a very dear friend of this show and my family. He endorsed my candidacy for State House, and I've known him for years. Also, you got Mike Gallagher, a Brooklyn boy. You also have Dennis Prager U, and you have Sebastian Gorka. All of them are national figures, and they bring an amazing conservative faith view to the forefront. So when you're not watching this show and not tuning in, go to 990 AM, download their app, check it out. They are on throughout the whole day. Chris DeGaulle is on for the morning drive from 6 to 9, then pop over here, watch my show for an hour, and then head back to 990 AM and check out what they are doing. You will absolutely love what they bring to the table. This morning, before we hit our first segment, I wanted just to tee it up really quickly. Earlier this week, I talked to you about the Salvation Army, that diversity, equity, and inclusion culture that they are bringing to the table. I did also read to you the op-ed that was in the Western Journal, written by Christian Watson. He is joining us this morning for our first segment as we talk about what is happening to our nonprofits. And I did look up online a lot of the different nonprofits that are focusing on more of that diversity, equity, inclusion versus focusing on the donors, the volunteers, and the staff. So I am bringing over to the show right now Christian Watson. And he is here. I just saw him for a second, and I'm sure he'll be right back. And as we are waiting for Christian to come over, okay, he's having some audio issues. We're going to just stand by. I wanted to read to you a list of a lot of the different organizations and groups out there. And here's what I Googled this morning. I Googled, what are the top charities for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the complete list. And, you know, I was sitting here and just checking out the list, and I can't believe I actually had to Google this, because as we are focusing on 17 days until midterm elections, as Dennis Prager said the other night, and I quote him, liberty, the word liberty, what does that mean to you? It is not one of the progressive Democrat views. Christianity is not. Conservative values is not. And what have we done to prevent the other side from doing this? Dennis Prager said, we are the outliers. That was his opening statement. We are the outliers. And he always says something to that effect on his show. Then he said, the left are the sheep. So what are we doing with 17 days out until midterms? What are we doing with early voting? This show is featured in North Carolina. North Carolina is a battleground state. What are we doing as they are early voting? What are we doing to get out the vote? What are we doing to educate the constituents? What are we doing in the state of Pennsylvania? We've been here all week. What are we doing to educate the community and the voters on the extreme erosion of Fetterman, the powerhouse endorsement of Oz from Trump, Doug Mastriano, who is running for governor? What are we doing to educate? I am bringing over Christian Watson. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? I'm all right. I'm good.
Good. Thank you for joining the show on this cold Friday. I don't know where you're sitting, but it's freezing cold up here in Chester County. I've been here all week with my show, focused on the harvest season, focused on family and friends, focused on midterms, attending the Salem Radio Battleground Tour that was in Bucks County 2 nights ago with Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, Chris Gall and Sebastian, happening in our battleground states. But I want to, as I have been teeing you up, I talked about your op-ed earlier this week and really asked your op-ed with regards to the Salvation Army, bless you, and the diversity, equity, and inclusion aspect of the Salvation Army. Can you talk to my conservative audience about what you are seeing with the Salvation Army in regards to, do you think this is going to decrease the donors, the volunteers, the bell ringers as we head into the holiday season?
I hope not, but they're really shooting themselves in the foot with this. Last year, Color Rescue United was the group that exposed what the Army was doing with their curriculum, the Let's Talk About Racism curriculum, in which they said that their members needed to repent for the church's racism, and they used critical race theory type language to instruct their members on racism. That was inappropriate, that was not biblical, and that was not accepted by the membership at large. So we managed to get a petition that got over 14,000 signatures.
Oh, wow.
From
Well
Salvationists,
done.
people within the Army, not just anyone.
Well done.
Thank you. People within the Army. And those 14,000 signatures compelled Commissioner Hodder, who heads the Army in the United States, to release a video pulling back the curriculum. But in that video, he said, "We are fully committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion." So this year, we're saying to him, Commissioner Hodder, please say that DEI does not help a single person in poverty. Please say that DEI is toxic and divisive and has no place in a historically colorblind group like the Army. And please retract all DEI trainings, policies that still exist under the Army's tutelage. It's a simple request, but it's a request that would make him have to save face on many different fronts. It's a request that goes against the PR wisdom of our prevailing age. It's a request that may even go against his own personal sensibilities. But it is a request, nonetheless, that is in accordance with the principles of the Army, and that's why we're asking it.
So what, have you heard any response yet? What's the movement on the...
We sent a public letter to Mr. Hodder, and we have heard no response so far. And so we're just going to keep, it's a shame. We're just going to keep trucking along, though, because this is a very important matter. This is a very important issue. You know, the Salvation Army is one of the greatest charitable organizations in the world.
Yes.
And we want to save that. We don't want to hurt that. We want to save that. And so it's a shame that he wants to drag this out, but it's okay, because the more people know about this, the more people can say, we will not support this unless you do what we need you to do.
Do you think this may be more of a general question, but I'm thinking outside the box in regards to, we are seeing that the DIA, diversity, equity, and DEI, diversity and inclusion training in our military across the board. We are seeing a deterioration and an erosion of what is happening at the national level with our school systems, our military, now these charitable organizations. What do we need to be doing? And is it just one person that's trying to take our liberty away with regards to at the Salvation Army? Is it just one person, or is it a trickle-down effect? Or let me ask you this. Is it the fact that we have so many donors, we have so many volunteers, and we have so many people who are staffing at, do you see them, their voices rising and saying, you know what, we're going to fight back on this? Are they moving in that direction, or do you think it's just going to be a person that says, you know what, this is how we're rolling out with it, and then they're going to, lose a lot of money, lose a lot of support, lose a lot of staff? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, so there's a few things there. It's definitely coming from the top. This is not a bottom-up thing. This is a top-down thing. Most people in the Army do not want this. This is a leadership thing.
Right.
So it's definitely, most certainly coming from the top. I'm not sure if it's one person or a group of people, but I do know that the buck stops with Commissioner Hodder, and I do know that he has affirmed that he wants this kind of, race baiting in his organization.
Yes.
And we don't, and that's not okay. But yes, it is trickle down effect. Because really the entire organization can be ruined by its brand ambassador.
Yes.
Commissioner Hodder is not only a brand ambassador, he is the brand caretaker as well. Because he is over every single chapter in the United States, which is the Army's largest donor base in the entire world. So in effect, he's probably one of the most powerful Salvation Army officers in the organization. So we are just asking him, hey, please respect the legacy of your organization. Please respect the ethos of your organization, and do not tarnish it with race politics.
Right. That's exactly it. As my husband and I had a conversation yesterday, he served in the United States Army. He served in the National Guard. And we went over to Fort Bragg, which is in our state, back in July. And something that really struck him, I already knew in the back of my mind that the recruitment numbers were low. But we had experienced something. He had experienced something that was just completely off of his radar. And that base, it was a Saturday. I get that. But the base was completely empty. Not a soul around. We went over to the PX two young soldiers who just gotten back from Poland. And my husband went over to them and said, "Where is everybody?" And, as I look at what is happening, I knew that the recruitment numbers since 1940 have been the lowest. I get that. And I don't agree with it. And it has a lot to do. The Pentagon is more focused on the diversity, equity, inclusion than they are more on our defense and our national security. It is erosion of our culture. It's an erosion of our society. It's an erosion of our national security. It is erosion of our education, the indoctrination of what is happening across our nation.
Right.
And here's another pathetic, and vile example of what is happening with an amazing group, the Salvation Army, that has been around. You said the legacy. It's been around for so long. And as I am a part of conservative groups back in North Carolina, do I want to go and stand out front of my supermarket and ring the bell anymore? Does my husband want to do that anymore because of what they are standing for? And, I said when I was reading your article to my audience earlier this week, I sat there and thought, I want to compare this year compared to other years and see how much money they actually lost. Because at the end of the day, the organization is going to suffer. People are going to suffer because they chose to pull such a vile and pathetic and a stunt that is full of erosion, and just so fed up with the fact that we have to be subjected to this infiltration of crap. I mean, I'm just put it out there. It's Friday. I'm putting it out there, Christian.
Right. No. Keep going. No, it's great. Yeah. So a few things here. Yes. The military. A lot of reasons as to why the military is suffering the way it's suffering, and which is weird because they are at every high school in the nation. When I was in high school, 4 or 5 years ago, the military was everywhere. And so, military recruiters were everywhere, rather. And so they're in full drive recruiting, and there are people that sign up, but they are shooting themselves in the foot, not just with DEI, but also with forcing their members to take medication they don't want to take.
Yes,
that's a big problem too, and there are now military members suing the DoD because of this. And so you really just, it's weird. The most funded entity in the United States, because the military by far is probably the most funded entity in the entire United States. In fact, I know it is because it occupies about 70% of the discretionary budget, is having this much trouble getting people to stay. That's interesting, because it used to be thought that if you fund the military, it'll be strong. But strength does not come from money. Strength comes from values. If you lack good values, you will not have a strong system.
Yes.
And so the DEI threat does pose a unique challenge to American institutions, because our institutions are predicated on values. But DEI is an anti-value system. It seeks to subvert and undermine. It wants to so-called burn everything down to ashes and not replace it. This is not a phoenix effect. This is just a destructive effect. They want to annihilate the systems because they believe the systems are based inherently on oppression. And how can I be free, they think, amid a system based inherently on oppression? Well, I have to destroy the system. I can either work within the system and still be oppressed, or I have to destroy the system. And that's what it is an attempt to do. So I think all Americans should be educated about this threat. It's a very looming threat. It's a very concerning threat. You mentioned Dennis Prager. Brilliant man. I swear. One of the most brilliant men in talk radio right now. And I think that more Americans should listen to more people like him. Not just because I agree with him on many things, but because that's wisdom. That's intelligence.
Yes.
Right now, a lot of the people on the left are not exercising wisdom or intelligence. Right. And it's very unfortunate. And unfortunately, everyone who follows them will be led down the same path. So,
yes, no, thank you for that. Thank you so much for that. I want to wrap it up with just a couple more comments, a couple more thoughts. As we are 17 days out from midterms. November 8th, early voting has started in the battleground state of North Carolina. And as we are looking ahead to the midterms, what is your analysis? You are a spokesperson, I know, for Color Us United, and you are the host of Pence of Politics. What is your initial analysis of us taking back the Senate, just taking back the Senate, taking back the House? What is your initial thoughts on the movement of what's happening in Georgia, what's happening in Arizona, what's happening in Pennsylvania, North Carolina?
Well, yeah, that's a big question because so much has happened. I think on the right now, there is a fight between the sort of traditional Reaganism and the more populist strains. And this fight is having an impact on what kind of candidates we get. Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania, who is the standard bearer for the Republican Party, if you had looked at him 2 or 3 years ago, most Republicans would have been like, "Who is this guy?" or "Why would we go for him?" But he decided to try to be populist, and now people are convinced that he's a savior. When in all reality, there are people like Kathy Barnett that would have been far more compelling and far better, in my opinion, than Dr. Oz. And Kathy Barnett's an actual fighter. She's smart. She knows what she's doing. She has a core rock wave values. But Oz wanted to play pretend. And then you have other people around the country. You have people like Blake Masters, who really tap into a strain of anger that a lot of people on the right are feeling. People don't want a lot of people don't want a sort of sit back and let me talk to you kind of politician. They want a fighter, but there's a danger in that as well. You can have a fighter that destroys your enemy, but also injures himself as well. And I think that represents the certain kind of GOP candidate. But regardless, I do think that these things are having an impact on the GOP's ability to take control of the Senate. Right now, it was a red wave. Earlier, a few months ago, it was red wave. But then it moved towards, okay, maybe the Democrats are going to hold on. Now is it going to be a 50-50 split? The nature of these predictions and volatile times is that we really don't know. If it was up to me, I would guess that the odds slightly favor the Republican Party right now just because the incumbent is doing so bad. But I also know that not everybody looks at that.
Right.
I know the moment gas prices started to go down a little bit, the anxiety that a lot of people felt was lifted. If this midterm had been held in the middle of the summer, the Republicans would have destroyed the Democratic Party and taken both houses, in my opinion. Like in the middle of summer, when inflation was high and gas prices would have been no competition. Now things are more complicated. So I think that people should just, instead of trying to figure out who's going to win, go out and vote. Vote, support your preferred candidate. Preferably don't support the Democrats if you can help it, but just go out and vote. And then we'll see what happens afterwards. So that's my quick analysis of the entire thing.
No, I thank you for that quick analysis, Christian Watson. And the reason why I say that, I've been bringing it up daily now. I've been going over the scorecards. I've been going over all the different candidates, and I keep impressing upon is just that we need to educate ourselves. And I feel as though a lot of people, they just turn it off. They turn off the commercials. They turn off what's going on. But at the end of the day, if you don't educate yourself and get off your tuchus and stop complaining, nothing's going to get done. And I always say to people, I'm a northern girl in a southern world, but I'm going to tell you how it is. Get up, go do something, and go talk to people and go educate, go meet the candidates. Because otherwise, nothing is going to get. You are not going to get what you want. You're not under. So Christian Watson, you back, because I just got another article that came through this morning, and it's in regards to transgender commentary from Convention of States. I'd like to have you back in the next week or two. I'd love to have another longer dialogue with you and just really engage on what's going on And so I'd love to have you back. I'm grateful for your work with Color Us United. I'm grateful for your work with Pensive Politics. And thank you for writing this article, this op-ed in the Western Journal. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I always come back. No problem. Thank you.
Fabulous. Have a wonderful weekend, sir. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And for all of those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. And like I said, all topics on the table. And as we are headed to our break, we will be back in a few minutes. We are going to be getting set up for our live segment in the kitchen with my Hungarian Mamma Mia. And this will be the final segment for Harvest before I head back to the great state of North Carolina. And we will be leaving you kind of hanging in this segment because as my husband and I return back here for Thanksgiving, Mamma Mia may give us some of her secret recipes that have to do with mushrooms, which Chester County is the mushroom capital of the world, and also something to do with some sweet potatoes. So on that note, we will be back in a few minutes. Stay tuned. we are back. And this is Common Sense America in the kitchen with my Hungarian Mamma Mia.
Good morning.
Okay, so what are you going to be giving us instructions on this morning?
We are going to do an apple pie, and I have always liked making apple pies, but I was never really good at the pie crust. My grandmother from Hungary brought this wonderful pie crust with her. It had Crisco and vinegar and the flours and everything, and she always made it when she had a new can of Crisco. She always made some pie crust and put it in the freezer. So therefore, she always gave my mother the what pie crust was ready and gave it to her. So somehow in the generation skip, I never learned to make a good pie crust. But I did learn the different kinds of apples, and I remember her apple pies were so good. And now that I'm understanding all the different kinds of apples, in her wonderful orchard in Pittstown, New Jersey, they had 2.5 acres, and it was peach trees, pear trees, apple trees, and I do believe she had Yellow Delicious and she had Rome Beauty apples. For somehow that name really stuck in my mind when I saw that name. But today I am using the same type of apples that I did in the apple crisp, the uh, Yellow Delicious, the Macintosh, and the green apple apple. So also right now I have mixed up our flour, the sugar, and the cinnamon.
Can you show that on the camera? Can you lift it up?
Okay. We have flour,
There you go.
sugar, and cinnamon that I'm mixing up, and that's going to go over the apples. So I did I cut up all the apples like I did the other day.
How many apples?
I probably have about 6 apples in here.
So 6 apples and the 3. So
Yes. So I probably have
2 of each.
2 delicious, 4 Macintosh, and 1 green apple.
Oh, okay. So only 1 green apple.
Yeah, 1 Granny Smith because it was a really big one.
Okay.
So this I'm going to mix into here.
So you're putting the mixture into the apples. Okay.
Yes, you put it into the apples. And I'm going to take this and we're going to toss them like this into this bowl.
Okay.
And then we're going to take it and transfer it to
the pie crust.
the pie crust.
By the way, I like your pumpkin apron. Where'd you get that? TJ Maxx?
From my daughter who bought it for me at TJ Maxx.
Yes, since I've been up here in Chester County, I've been doing a lot of shopping at TJ Maxx with my Mamma Mia for Christmas gifts and also for getting our family ready for the harvest holiday. So stay tuned for all of those who know I'm coming back to Eastern North Carolina. We got a lot of projects coming your way.
Well, I also wanted to talk about my grandmother. She and my grandfather came over separately from Hungary when they were 16 years old. And they knew each other. And the big fun story was whoever told it was the one that said they chased the other one.
I
Here,
like that.
you
So
know.
they separately came over on the boat to New York, to Ellis Island?
Right.
Okay, from
And-
Hungary.
Yes, and my grandmother became a maid in Philadelphia, and my grandfather started a welding business in Passaic, New Jersey.
Okay.
And I guess they got married and ended up building a house in East Patterson.
East Patterson, New Jersey, which is North New Jersey, right? Right outside of New York City,
And it's now Elmwood Park.
which is Elmwood Park. Okay. And that's where you grew up and you learned all your Hungarian recipes. Because you grew up with your grandmother, right?
Yes, I did. We spent summers there at the farm, their little farmette. And they had an amazing orchard, as I said, of beautiful fruit trees. And I searched and I searched and searched online until I could find that that property again. Because as I grew up and it was sold out of the family,
Can you hold that up on the screen for people to see?
okay, now it's everything is in here all tossed around, and I'm going to dot it with butter.
Dot it with butter. What's
Yeah.
that mean?
You're going to cut little squares of butter.
Now, is this at warm room temperature?
Room temperature, yep. Everything is at room temperature. I got the pie crust at room temperature, so it'll fold out well for me. So we're going to dot butter.
Okay. So do you use a whole stick?
No.
Okay.
No. You're in a whole stick of butter.
Is that the Hungarian in me or is that the German English in me?
I don't know what it is, but it'll make it a nice flavor, and everything, all these flavors will come together as it's baking.
Okay.
It's baked at 425 for almost an hour.
Okay.
And after you put the lid on here,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to put
The lid of what?
the pie crust.
The pie
top.
crust. Okay.
Once you put this on,
Okay. So would you say this is an easier way than making a pie crust?
oh, it's an easier way, yeah. And of course, there's family pie crust recipes from all over that I'm sure are wonderful. As I said, I've just never been able to master a pie crust.
Yes, but you know what? You have mastered your biscuits. They're not Southern biscuits. They're not filled with lard, but you have mastered biscuits for sure.
Well, they're good, yes. We'll have to do them sometime. And also, we'll have to, when we come back for Thanksgiving, I'll have to show you how I make my mushroom gravy.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier about the creamed mushrooms and the recipe that goes into it. I mentioned that this area is the mushroom capital of the world.
Right.
So talk to us as you turn your back to the camera.
I'm sorry. I need my knife. There, I gotta find my knife. Here it is. I lose things easily. I tell you.
So talk to us about as you are
I'm fluting this, putting some air holes
air holes in the apple pie.
into the crust so it will steam well, and all those flavors will come together and make a nice, flavorful pie.
So how long do we keep this?
This goes in the oven for about 45 to 50 minutes. It takes a while.
Okay.
But when you first put it in, they tell you to put tinfoil around the edges so the edges won't burn.
So does the whole tinfoil scenario, is that good for other aspects of crusts when you were baking in the oven? So if you were putting in a pot pie or something like that, so the crust doesn't burn?
That would make sense, yes. Whenever we've done a pot pie, I've never done the ends, but they do tend to get a little bit harder. And it's not as nice as it is when you first.
I mean, after all, for all of those watching, let's take a poll. Who likes the filling and who likes the crust more? I think I raise the hand of liking the crust more. That's my favorite. What is your favorite? The crust or the middle? The filling?
I don't know. I like it together. I really do.
Yeah. So as we're getting ready for harvest season here in Chester County and then also in Eastern North Carolina, I'll be going back to Eastern North Carolina tomorrow, Saturday, and getting ready for our candidate interviews for midterm elections and also getting the house ready for the Christmas season. And I do Christmas. I don't do season's greetings, people. And as we're getting the house ready for the Christmas season, we're going to be doing some filming of the tree decorating and the house decorating, and it becomes Hallmark 2.0, if you will. But before we head into full-on Christmas, we're going to be doing other interviews with Mama Mia and her kitchen for Thanksgiving. And what were a couple of those recipes?
Well, we were going to talk about the creamed mushrooms.
Okay.
And also I make a special sweet potatoes. I cook them, peel them, and then I brown them in butter and cinnamon and put them in the oven. because most of my family are health food people and they exercise and they don't like all that brown sugar and stuff. So I've been doing it that way, and it's been a great hit because it's just a nice flavor and it's not heavy and sweet.
So give us a little hint of what you do. How do you do that?
Well, you have to cook them, the sweet potatoes
Okay.
in a pot. I cook them,
Okay.
and then I let them cool. Then I peel them.
Okay.
Then I slice them to several inches thick,
Okay.
and have a pan on my stove with the butter melting and the cinnamon, and then I brown them. They make a nice little crust when you brown them. And then I put them in a pan and put them in the oven.
So it's healthier than having all that brown sugar.
Right, and it's very tasty, very tasty. And also we'll be talking maybe about mashed potatoes.
Yeah, yeah. How you do a simple mashed potato recipe, but yet it's very hearty and filling.
Yes.
And is it healthy though? With all the milk you
And
put
the
in
butter,
it and the
milk
butter?
milk and the butter and the sugar, that's what makes it. I mean, what's the point of having mashed potatoes if you're not going to have good stuff in it? I mean, what's the point?
For all of those who are watching, we have quite a few people watching. I'm already hungry for Thanksgiving. But as we were talking, I did the thing. I can hear my public speaking teacher slapping my hand right now. As we are talking about the Thanksgiving recipes, what makes your creamed mushrooms such a hit and so popular amongst our family and then others? What is so special about it? Is it because the mushrooms are fresh from Chester County?
Yes, they're fresh and they are the brown mushrooms. They're a lot denser. They are meatier and they make a very nice dark gravy. I always brown them in butter with salt, put a little flour, and I always get whole milk. Really good milk. Now there's farms nearby. I can get raw milk, but if I can get the raw milk or if I can get the whole milk, it's much nicer. It's just nicer than using skim milk or anything. It just makes a wonderful gravy, and it has such a great color and flavor.
For all of those in Eastern North Carolina looking for the ideal mushrooms, my husband and I have searched the Piggly Wiggly, the Lowe's, and the Publix, and what we have found is that the Lowe's and the Piggly Wiggly carry Kennett Square, Pennsylvania mushrooms. So Kennett Square is Chester County, Pennsylvania mushrooms. So if you want to basically create what is it called? The creamed mushrooms?
Yes.
Gravy to go on your amazing mashed potatoes, your what else?
Turkey.
Your turkey. What else? Your
Stuffing,
ham, the stuffing.
It goes on anything.
Yes, it goes on anything. And for all of those who are watching, I am going to be bringing a bunch of mushrooms back, thanks to my dad who works in the mushroom house. He does work with the mushrooms businesses around here, and my husband always asks for at least a small bag of mushrooms, but I end up bringing back a whole box. So for any of you who want to try it out and try out the simple recipe, it's pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
How long does it take to cream them and all that?
Oh, I'd say you've got a lot of cutting, so another 15, 20 minutes.
And then the stirring, is it all on the wrist?
It's on the wrist. You
It's
got to
on
have a
wrist.
good whisk.
And a good whisk.
You got to have a good whisk. That will really blend the
Okay.
flour.
What about the pan that you put it in?
Well, you know what? The pan that I use.
Sorry, she went off camera again. She's getting all of her pans out for you guys.
I like my enamel speckled pan. You
Okay.
can get them at any store. The Goods has them and the Amish stores have them, but the enamel pans just make a really good gravy. So I brown them in here, and the taste is so different than just putting it in a frying pan.
You think we could get those at Walmart, Target, those types of stores too? Or
They may have them, but
best places to get them from an Amish store?
yeah,
Okay.
and any local older store, a store that has things that the older people like to have. I mean, this pan's been around a long time. This is a new one. The other one I can't dig out. It's further down. It got so grazed with when I would make barbecue ribs in it that I couldn't get it all clean.
Oh,
So I bought a new one. So I have one for ribs and one for everything else. Every Sunday there's a roast going in here and goes in the oven while we're in church.
Good comfort food. Stick to
Yes.
your ribs type food. Okay, so could we get do the Amish sell on Amazon, I wonder?
You can probably get this on Amazon. It's an enamel
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
toaster.
so let's go back to, as I'm starving now for Thanksgiving food. Let's go back to the apple pie. So you have go through final steps with us before.
It's all done. We're gonna put it in the oven. We have the tin foil on it. We've got it fluted. We've got everything on it that we need.
Okay. Any final words? We have about 8 minutes left before the show ends. Any final words on your pies and your baking and apple crisp and anything for the harvest season?
Well, I just think it's a wonderful time of year to get the fresh apples. You can get apples any time of year, but this is the special time of year where they're really fresh, right off the tree. They're being harvested, and they're just so plentiful, and it's such a nice change from something that you can just get out of a can.
Right. That's the difference.
That's the difference, and it's just fun to cook for your family and have everybody around. That's what I enjoy the most is cooking and having the table filled with people that I love.
Yeah, and then as long as we don't get in her way in the kitchen, we're good to
Yes.
go, and we'll
Oh,
actually get to eat.
Yes, stay out of my way on Thanksgiving Day. Do not bother me in the kitchen.
How can people reach you if they would like your recipes? Can I share them online? Can I share your recipes?
Sure, if you want to. Sure.
Okay. And if people want to reach you, that you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook.
Yes.
And those are the best ways, or they can text you. Do you want to say any comments to any of the text messages that have come in since your last cooking segment?
I enjoyed reading them. They thought this one girl said to me, well, you know so many things, and you should go on and talk about many things, and even the 10 cats you feed outside.
Do you really feed 10 cats?
No, I don't feed 10 cats. I just have a couple. But on a cute story with my grandmother, she had at the farmette, she had chickens, and she had a garden that was impeccable. And I can't remember how many fruit trees because they had 2.5 acres, so they had a whole lot of, I'd say, a half acre of apple trees, and then there was peach trees by the chicken coops, and then there was more trees by the other side of the house. But in the morning when she would go out to feed the chickens, she would start hollering, everybody
To the chickens?
to the chickens, because she would feed them,
Uh-huh.
and they would all come running. Everybody.
That's you with the cats.
No, I was thinking the same thing.
Oh my goodness, you do that, and you expect the cats to answer you, and they don't. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm always talking to the cats.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Cats and older people.
Yes.
We all love you.
And you know, I was telling one of my ladies at the nursing home, because I am a hairdresser in a nursing home part-time. I was telling her about my apple pie, and she said, we in our family, she said, we always served sharp cheddar cheese with our apple pie.
Oh, that sounds so good.
And I had never thought about it.
That is a very northern thing. I've heard people say that before.
Yes.
I hadn't thought about that.
And she's a great lady. She's 101 and still going strong.
So when this apple pie comes out of the oven, who are we inviting over tonight for some apple pie? Those who are watching and those who are tuning in with a cup of Zabar's coffee and some cheese?
Well, we'll have to figure that out. We'll have to get on the phone and start calling people. Because we can't eat all this ourselves, but we'll try.
Can you hold it up again for the screen so people can see what it looks like? Okay, there you go. So as you can see, she has the tin foil around the pie crust so it does not burn the pie crust. And then it goes in at how long? What's the
475 for
475
about 50 minutes.
for about 15 minutes. Okay, any final words?
Nope. Enjoy your day, and Lord bless you all.
Oh, thanks, Mamma Mia. For all of those who are tuning in, I am right here. Okay, there we are. I am in our family's kitchen. This is Common Sense America. I am Eden Hill. And thank you all for tuning in with my Mamma Mia. I have an apron on, but I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think I'm going to be baking anytime soon unless my husband sees this segment and says, okay, please cook and please bake. So anyway, and you know him. So anyway, for all of those family, friends, all of those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. I am Eden Hill. We have just a few minutes left in the show. I'm going to go ahead and end the show. Enjoy this apple pie with my Mamma Mia. And for all of those who have followed me on my weight journey, I have lost 25 pounds and I'm really thankful. And for all of those who were concerned that I was going to put on a couple pounds coming up to the north to eat some really good food, have no fear. I've already lost a couple more pounds since being up here. And you know what? You can still enjoy good food and you can also enjoy good company and not have to be so stressed out about putting on pounds during the holidays. There's an easy way to do that. It's a psych way to do that. And there's also a healthy mentality of doing that. So I want to encourage you all during the holiday season to enjoy your time with your family, your friends, acquaintances, community, people who may not have anybody. Reach out to them and bring them into your homes. We love you guys. Have a great weekend. We will see you back on Monday. We have on Monday a huge show. We have Jason Williams, who's with Faith and Freedom Coalition for the state of North Carolina. We're going to be breaking down early voting in the state of North Carolina and midterm elections. It's going to be a jam-packed week full of amazing guests. You will not want to miss it. Join us. Subscribe to YouTube. Subscribe to Rumble. Common Sense America. I'm Eden Hill. We'll see you next week. Love you guys.